This can I see? Oh my gosh, where's my binder? Wait, you hit the binder?
Hello, everyone. I'd like to call the April 16th, 2024 meeting of the Budget Committee to order. If I could have everybody stand at the pledge of allegiance. For the beautiful. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, this is the best part. I will now call for nominations for the budget committee chair. Are there any nominations? I would you like that, Shannon? I would like to nominate Chris Corder as a budget committee chair. You gotta get practice. All right, that's
Second.
Second. All right, motion's been made and seconded to nominate Chris Porter as chair. Chris, you accept the nomination? I do. Okay. Are there any other nominations for the budget committee chair? If there are none, we will close nominations. I just like everybody to look down when I was next. Okay. Let's see here. All right, now we will call for the vote for Chris Corder to be chair of the budget committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Chris, congratulations. We're gonna trade seats. And there is a. Okay.
Oh, this is nice. Doesn't have to be verbatim. We can see that.
All right. It's helpful. Well, thank you. Thanks, Chris.
All right. I will now call for nominations for Budget Committee Vice Chair. Any nominations?
Does it have to be a board member? It can be anybody in there.
It can be anybody.
I'll nominate Mary Beth.
Second.
Nomination has been made and seconded for Mary Beth as Vice Chair. Anybody on Zoom, anything there? All in favor? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? I'm going to close the nominations with no other nominations. I'll take a vote on the Vice Chair Budget Committee position. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Sandra. All opposed? And there is none, so Mary Beth, thank you for being the Vice Chair of the Budget Committee. No, I need to- Okay. All right, we are. We are gonna move into our budget presentation, so Budget Officer Susan Penrod will now present the budget message in the budget document.
Okay, welcome, everybody. I want to welcome our budget committee members, Mary Beth Gloria, Jason Haig, Nancy McCune, our newest member, Coral Sadler, welcome. Darrell Walker, AJ Wong, which will be able to join us via Zoom, and Tony Watson. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Okay, you have in front of you in your binder, our budget. I'll start by reading, the budget message. We have a presentation to go through and share a little bit of information with you about our district, and then I'll turn it over to Tony to take it away. All right. So in your binder, if you'll please turn to page 6, every year we have a budget message and, I'll read that now. Dear Seaside School District community, student and staff success is our number one priority. We prioritize intervention programs, instructional coaching for staff, and the continued development of our instructional framework. Additional staffing positions focus on supporting the social and emotional needs of our students, and additional middle school electives that offer students a variety of options. We continue to fund our successful staff wellness program with monthly events to support healthy living. Seaside School District is a great place to learn and work. 2024-25 will mark our second year implementing the integrated guidance plan initiated by the Oregon Department of Education. This plan consolidates several of our grants into one funding source, offering a more comprehensive view into our programs and priorities such as career technical education, multi-tiered systems of support, early learning, literacy, and attendance. September 2024 is the deadline for all, September 30th, actually, to be exact, for all public school districts to access funds through the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, also known as ESSER. We knew these funds were limited to 3 years, so last year, all ongoing staffing and materials were moved into stable funding sources. I'm proud that we are able to sustain a sufficient operating contingency and provide programs and positions that enable staff and students to excel. We continue to meet the requirements in our board policy, ensuring a 10% ending fund balance in our contingency fund, providing financial security for our district. The Seaside School District continues our commitment to the core values of equitable, safe learning environments and engaging, well-rounded education, and to focus on collective wellness and community partnerships. Thank you to our entire community for supporting our schools. All right, so Kyle, if you can, I'm gonna get up so I can stand over here so I can see our presentation. Yep. Yeah. Okay, we want to start by telling you a little bit about our district. What you see up here is our total enrollment broken down by schools. We are also very proud of our class sizes. Right there, you see average class sizes, and it has been a priority to be able to keep our class sizes low. Okay. So who are our students? We have our students broken down into different groups. Our white, Hispanic, our families and students who identify for more than one ethnic area. And so it gives you an idea that nearly 30% of our students identify as Hispanic. We offer a variety of services. What we have here is our students in at the top there in our ELD, our English Language Development program. So this is often students where English is not their first language, and they receive special supports. Down below, special education services. So students who are receiving specially designed instruction. We have the numbers and percentages broken down there. Thanks. Our staff, we are lucky in our district to have a lot of longevity with our staff. A lot of our staff maybe come here for a year or two and think they're going to move on, and then they love it here so much they stay. So we have a variety of staff and in different groups. Our licensed staff, which is mostly made up of our teachers, and then our counselors and some teachers on special assignment. Our classified staff, is, the widest, variety, including our instructional assistants, our food service, our custodians, and a variety, of other staff. We also have in our district office, our group of confidential staff who support the superintendent's office. We have, our supervisors, transportation, technology, facilities, to name a few, who, are not licensed, members, but they do supervise other staff. And then, of course, our district-wide administrators. Next. Okay, so at this point, I'm gonna turn it over to Tony to talk about what a budget is.
Yeah.
Before she leads us through the document.
So, so this is kind of a bird's eye view of what a budget is, and it kind of figures in our budget. So a budget is the financial plan for the coming year. It includes estimates of revenue, which are called resources, and estimates of expenditures, which are called requirements. So the budget committee roles and responsibilities is to receive the budget and the document, to provide members of the public an opportunity to ask questions about and comment about the budget document, make changes to any line in the budget to meet the goals and programs outlined, approve the budget document and refer it to the school board for adoption. And the budget committee cannot change staffing levels, salary schedules, or negotiate salary contracts. So that's the little limitation. So the budgeted funds, the general fund, which has the most flexibility, is 30,111,546, which is 60.2% of our overall budget. Our fund 200s is the special revenue, which are grants and student bodies and reserved funds for specific purpose. And that is 17% of our overall budget. Debt service fund, which is the 300s, and that is used to pay our long-term debts. And that is 14.5% of our budget. And then we have a capital improvements fund, which funds, the funds are 400s. That's used to acquire, construct, and renovate any major capital improvements. Okay, projected revenue by fund. So including our beginning fund balances, our budget is $49,796,426. Rounded, of course. And then the next slide. So these are our major funds. So the first one is our general fund. And then we've got the 233, which is miscellaneous federal. 234, which is Title IIA. 235, which is ESSER. 236 are technology grants, including things that we get, like E-rate is one of our technology grants. So 237 is our MAC, or Medicaid funds, that fund our health services. We have 239, which is the Aspire program. 240 is Title I. 241 is the IDEA grant. 245 is Title BIB. And 246 is Title IV. 250 is miscellaneous non-federal grants, and that can be from state, it could be private. It's a wide mix. 251 is the SIA, the Student Investment Fund. 252 is graduation, college, career readiness, which is sometimes affectionately called Measure 98. 254 is the English language learners, which was new last year. 260 is the energy efficient schools. 261 is equitable education. 262 is our student body funds. 263 is literacy, early literacy success, and that is a new grant this year. 264 is our preschool promise grant. And then we've got two funds, 277 and 282, which are scholarships. Our 299 fund is food service. And then we've got the 300s that are debt service and the 400s that are capital improvements. Okay, and here's a summary of all expenditures. So we've broken it out here, salaries and extra duties, payroll costs and benefits, purchase services, supplies, capital outlay, debt and fees, transfers and contingency and unappropriated funds. And I have some definitions in a second for those. So personnel expenditures in the general fund. Right now, we are estimating 70.1% of our general fund budget will be salaries and benefits. And that is actually down from about 80% a couple years ago. So that's good. Okay, so
But just real
Why is
quickly,
that good?
Yeah, why, maybe we have less staff?
Sorry.
because we're getting more grants and we're able to fund
Okay.
it. And
So the dollar amount is the same
dollar amount is the same. We're just moving it around into grants and
as into other
other things so we can.
funds or into other buckets.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. Next,
just to clarify though, was that general budget that we're, a general fund, 70% general fund?
yeah, Fund 100.
And so it went from 80 to 70? And that's
Yeah,
because
it
we
was a
have more-
couple years ago.
The grant money doesn't go into general fund, right?
No,
So
but we,
just interesting, like, it's a good move, it's good, I just was wondering why.
So the student investment account, which is our grant that is from the corporate activity tax. Some grants allow you to put staffing in them and some do not.
Okay, so they just
So,
kind of,
so it has been our goal to put as much of our staffing
Makes sense.
in stable grants that are not going away.
that answers
An
it.
example would be Preschool Promise, which funds our preschool program. We're able to put both teachers and instructional assistants in that grant.
Yep.
So, that way it frees up our general fund.
Yep, makes sense, I just was kind of.
Yeah, good question.
yeah, absolutely. So a little bit about our current staffing numbers. FTE increased slightly from last year. We added 1.52 FTEs. We are not cutting anybody. Everybody's still employed here, so that's good. Currently working to fill some of the vacant positions we have. Again, as Susan pointed out, stable grant funding will be utilized for staffing. And then we've moved staff funding based on current employee duties. So contingency, what is contingency? How can we use it? It needs board action to use the funds, and usually it's only in an emergency. Next. And then unappropriated can't be used unless a supplemental budget is done in an emergency. So it's a little more legwork for that one. So the unappropriated ending fund balance is the amount set aside in the budget to be used for a cash carryover to the next fiscal year or budget period, budget. It provides the local government with cash until the tax money is received from the county treasurer in November. This amount cannot be transferred by resolution or used through a supplemental budget unless necessitated by a qualifying emergency. Okay, and we turn to our book. So,
And by the way, I'll send you this PowerPoint tomorrow morning, along with some other documents.
so this document is rather boring this year. We didn't change a lot. Everybody stayed employed. We just, shuffled them around a little bit in the budget to better reflect what they were doing and where they were in the buildings. So we budgeted, a 7% COLA increase for everyone. And some of the staff you'll see have, COLA plus a step, which is, when they move up a little bit, so they get a little bit more than 7%.
So yes, I'll elaborate that on a little bit. We're currently in the process of negotiations with our licensed staff. That 7% is the current offer that we've made, so we're still negotiating that, but, our process.
Is that COLA for 1 year or is that combined for 2-year contract period?
That's for the first year.
First year.
Mhm.
Is the second year then also included or is that being negotiated or is that just
We're-
1
Yeah,
year?
we're in the process of negotiating for a 3-year.
Gotcha.
Is the 7% COLA across all staff,
Mhm.
administration,
Everybody got
everybody
7%.
got 7%?
Everybody, got
And,
Yeah.
well,
It's on the table.
we're,
right?
it's on the table.
we budgeted
We
7%.
purposely put in the offer that we've made. And Jason, yes, back to your question, while we're negotiating with the licensed group, it's been, the process that we've done that once that's negotiated, it goes to all employee groups.
Okay.
Okay, and, so if you'll open your book to page 7. So this is, kind of a one pager. This is the budget summary for all funds. So this includes, all the special funds, the general fund, resources and expenditures balance. And again, it's, $49,796,426. And, our FTE increased to 203.58. Oh, sorry.
Hey, not to be a stickler, but the contingency is at 10%. And it's
Hmm?
not quite, the contingency there, 2.5 million. On the general fund. Anyway, it's just slightly up.
Contingency. And then we're gonna have the ending fund balance in grants and capital improvement.
To get us to that 10%.
So that makes around 10%. Yeah. Okay, and we start off with expenses. And we're pretty much the same. We did, move, 2 FTEs to grants or, to different places. On the next, I'll go slow so you can look through it.
Could you just point, there's so many numbers on here. Can you point to us where you have like a greater than a 5, 6, 7% increase? Or is there some shifting of priorities that would move 1 year to the next with over 5%?
Well, we have, so I budgeted for inflation, of course, which is kind of outrageous right now.
Right.
And, so there's that. And of course, you know, we're employing the same amount of people. They're just in different places than they used to be.
But as far as programs and kind of our plan last year is going to be about the same, just the pie is going to be allocated about the same.
About the same.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. On the next page, you'll see that we moved a classified position to the middle school instruction.
Where you see that?
Okay, it's on page 9. And it's function 1121. And then the classified salaries, if you go across to the proposed, there's a 0.88 FTE that we shifted to the middle school, high school.
Where did it come from? You shifted it from to the middle school.
I would have to look up
Okay,
exactly
Gotcha.
where, because there was a lot of movement. I'll look it up though. It's okay. Okay, on the next page, we had budgeted for a temporary licensed, last year. And, again, that was moved to another area.
Is it possible when you tell us what you're talking about, like where we can look? 'Cause
Okay, sure.
I'm
Yes, we
super
don't know it as
confused.
well.
When I'm looking the page, I don't know
Sure.
where I'm looking.
Function 1131. And then. Which is high school programs, and then the temporary licensed. We had budgeted, like I don't wanna guess, so, we did budget something there and we, shifted it to another area.
So it goes from 1,440,000 to 1,650,000, is that right? And I'm.
So for the,
Oh, who's all right? Which page are you on?
I was on page 10.
Oh, gotcha. I'm sorry, I'm skipping ahead. My bad.
It's line one, function 1131, number 123.
120,
Yeah.
thanks.
so I'm trying to remember kind of like what we did last year, and I think that my question was along the lines of, hey, how do we do so far to date, right? Like, we budgeted all these things last year, we approved the budget, we've said, these are the expenditures, these are the big outlays we're gonna have, this is the year-on-year change. Here we are, 3/4 of the way through the school year, what are those respective balances and how close did we get? Right, so like, how do we do? Did we have to move money around? Have to move money around? Like, what were those big outlays? What buckets are light? Which ones are right on? Like, I think that, like, kind of starting from that piece would be helpful again at the next meeting.
Okay,
Just to kind of like refresh everybody of like, how do we do? This is where we're at.
sure,
And then the second part of it is, as we kind of like look at the deeper dive for each of these individual numbers, like trying to understand broadly licensed salaries, right? So I look at it and I see it dropped 2 FTE and it dropped 5%. Okay, so then in my head, I'm like, well, we did a 7%, that's already baked in the 7% increase, but you debited out 2 FTE.
Mhm.
So does that's what that number equals, right? Like for all the 111s or,
Well, Jason, I think what they're doing is they're moving it into the grants. So those people are still here, just wondering.
no, I understand
Yeah.
that part of it. Like, I'm just trying to say like the 7% is baked in here,
yes,
right? And then
It
those
is.
other two are moved over there. Or to some other place,
Right.
right? Into the grants or whatever that piece is.
Mhm.
So I think what would be very helpful from that, like executive level, like 5,000-foot view of this is to say, here's the big buckets, here's how those have changed year on year.
okay,
Because that's kind of that first page is, like, these are great, the general fund, intermediate revenue, but understanding that year on year change and then what has gone up and what we're doing with what's gone up and
Okay.
why, or what's gone down and then how are we compensating for that?
sure.
Like, is that
Yeah, makes sense.
too weedsy? Am I like out of line? And I thought that we kind of went through that last year and I found that very helpful selfishly.
Okay,
So I kind of would like to see if we could do that, start off that next meeting with that very like high level view of what, how do we do?
Mhm.
Where are we at now?
sure,
And then what are the big changes this year?
okay,
And then we can all spend all kinds of time on the little ones,
sure.
but yeah,
Okay.
that's my question.
So I can tell you that, for the most part, ESSER has filled a lot of our needs. And so we have a very big ending fund balance, which is why we can give 7% this year. We did not hit the fiscal cliff like everybody else did, or as hard as everybody else did, because we planned it, because we saw it coming and 3 years ago and made sure that we had some cushion there, quite frankly.
Yeah,
And so, but ESSER is going away. And so, we have, I think, a little over $1 million that's gonna be spent between July and September, but that's it. And it's mostly for one-time projects.
Cool.
Um,
so I guess my follow-up to that piece then is like, great, what's that 3-year walk then look ahead? To say if you're having this larger change of
Mhm.
ESSER going away,
Right,
right? But we're projecting out this much growth year on year from all these other
Mhm.
puts,
Sure.
like, how does the removal, how are we compensating for the removal of that other one? I mean, I've also had to be in my bonnet about the contingency fund for the last 2
Okay.
years, and I'm gonna keep that bee just buzzing around. But like, how do we make sure that we are using every last dollar in the budget for the development in quoted first paragraph, right? Like that's my point there.
Okay,
And so as the budget has grown year on year, 5%, 2%, because of your extraordinary accounting and budgeting skills, right? What are we doing with that extra money? How are we putting it to work? And what are we going to do next year when things change? And then also like, what is that projecting for the year after that?
sure.
So like that would be my kind of the 5,000 foot ask, but then that's kind of that 10,000 foot look ahead too.
Okay,
Can I just add one more thing? Is if there's people with salaries that are in a grant that's ending, kind of let us know about how that works, you know, if it can come back in the general fund
Mhm.
or how, and to what effect.
okay,
So we don't have any staff that are in,
Yes, sir.
in unstable funding.
Okay.
Last year, when we originally, we've had ESSER for 3 years now, ESSER 1, 2, and 3. And, we originally put some staffing in there, knowing that, that if they were positions that we wanted to keep, we would put in stable grants. And you know, what I mean by stable grants is they don't have an end date. I'll use the SIA grant as an example. It would take, the legislators to end that grant. Measure 98, another one, high school success is one that's built into it. So, you know, that's funding that's staying. Last year, a year ahead was when we, as a leadership team meeting with the building and district administrators to say, okay, when we got back from COVID, we knew we had kids who needed interventions from that lost learning. And we also knew our students needed a lot of support for success through mental health and wellness. So we've added those positions, and we've all felt that it's really important to continue those positions. So they have either gone into the general fund or they've gone into grants that, as Tony said, are appropriate for the position that they're doing. So, you know, you may have read in the newspaper that a lot of districts have to cut. And that's for a couple different reasons. First of all, they still had some positions in ESSER and don't have the funds to be able to put them into the general fund or any of the others, or they're part of the state school fund and they have declining enrollment, so they need to cut that way. We're one, there's 197 districts in the state of Oregon, school districts. And we're one of 4, there used to be only 5 who are not in the state school fund because our property taxes are higher than that formula. And that's a good thing for us because it's stable funding. We know each year, from each year to year, what we can afford. We don't have to wait for the state school fund to come out from the state of Oregon and the governor's office and think that maybe we need to make cuts based on how that funding comes out. So as Tony said, we have been able to keep all those positions. The additional 1.5 is through special education. A lot has changed, and we know that we need more staffing to be able to provide services directly to our students. We have had an increase in move-ins for students who need a lot of personalized support. So there's the increase there. But like we said, there haven't been any positions cut, or do we see a need to? And that's why through our negotiations process, we we're really clear about what we can afford to be able to maintain our low class sizes and that staffing. Jason, for your question, about how are we using those funds to directly influence, the success of our students? The positions that we added a couple years ago are, all except for one position, all work directly with students. I hope that helps.
Yeah,
Yeah, really helpful.
no, it does. Thank you.
Okay. So,
Can I ask a quick question?
sure.
My page 10 and my page 11 are the same thing. Is that,
I don't know. Is it on this print?
is this
Yeah,
just a printing problem or am I looking at?
I think,
Yep.
yeah, it's a
Yours is-
I'm so sorry about that. I will,
I'm confused.
I'm sorry, I will,
Are we missing a page or is it just a duplicate?
The next page is 12.
But so that would follow. No, this,
So-
we're all the same.
Looks like a little one off there.
Skip a line.
Some things.
No matter how many times.
They're different from the same. Just the presentation. On this.
okay, okay, so on page 12, it doesn't look like there's anything significant. Page 13, there was just a 0.5 FTE that was moved elsewhere.
Function.
It's, function 1250. And it's, classified salaries.
What page is that?
It's on page 13.
Thank you.
There is unemployment that's going to be higher than normal. The state passed a law that but classified staff can now claim unemployment during breaks, which will drive our unemployment rate extremely high. So you'll see that throughout as well.
Yeah, so in the past, our classified staff who work just the same as the student contact days, they do not work during the spring break, the holiday break, and the summer. And so this new legislation that came out does require us to offer unemployment to them. So we have budgeted for that.
Is there an offset for that, or how are you able to cover that?
What do you mean?
Like, did you have to reduce something else to increase that?
We weren't able to offer more of a COLA. It's basically what we,
So that
so.
limit, so it was over, so
So,
it was offset by additional annual growth in funding
Yeah.
from something else.
right,
Right, and I mean, a lot of our classified folks have a second job, during the summer. So to be able, so there are some folks who will definitely not use it because they're going to, work at restaurants or whatever, other things. But we do need to budget for it just in case.
Which page, where was that?
that was on page 14, there's a big jump, in one particular line item, it's function 1250, unemployment.
Oh, it's 232 every time. Okay.
Yeah, it's unemployment is 232.
Got it.
Yeah.
I have a quick question regarding that line. When classified staff choose to, I don't know if this is still an option, but when they choose to spread their salary or paychecks to 12-month,
Mhm.
does that still count as being able to access unemployment, or would that
Yes,
not apply to them?
Yes, they can still access unemployment through the state.
Okay, thank you.
Next page, not a lot has changed there. Page 16 is our health services. And again, a couple years ago, we were able to move them into the MAC or Medicaid grant. So there is a little bit of supplies and insurance that we do pay through the general fund, but the majority of that funding is through MAC.
So you don't see any staffing there because it's not funded through the general fund, it's funded through the Medicaid services.
Those are the health services ones.
Yeah.
Okay, and on page 17, last year we had an assistant superintendent budgeted, and the superintendents, and we actually hired I'm sorry,
Director of Curriculum and Instruction.
there we go.
So we changed that position up.
Yeah, so we've changed it to improvement of instruction.
That's 2210-113.
Yeah. Okay. Next page, page 18. There is a FTE and library services that was changed to an instructional assistant and is no longer in the library.
We've always had, you know, 3.0 FTE in our library assistants, one at the secondary level and two at the elementary level. You know, we, as Tony said, last year, when we had 4.0 in, to maybe add another instructional assistant, we did not use that in library service.
Okay, and on page 19, executive administration services, you'll see that that FTE in administrator salary go down because because we moved it to instruction improvement. And office of the principal is the same. I bumped up some of the consumable supplies. You see, just in inflation.
Yeah, so you'll see throughout, we provided between 3% and 4% increase for, our materials. Because as Tony said earlier, inflation's going up and we want to be able to provide the same for materials and services. So like I said, that's between 3% and 4% increase.
Yeah. Okay, in fiscal services, we were able to, increase our HR department, just slightly. And that's the classified salaries in the fiscal services. Our insurance is going to go up, so there's a bump there. And that is fiscal services, insurance and judgments. Okay, the next section is operations and maintenance. So, we are, upping the upkeep and care of the buildings. Quite significantly, we've been, doing a lot of projects, and that's where that is budgeted through. It's function 2542, care and upkeep of buildings. And then there's non-consumable supplies,
Page 22.
page 22. And the next page 23, there's no significant changes there. We upped the fuel a little bit, more, oh, and we are buying an extra bus this year. Of course, you know, the law has changed. We are no longer able to, buy diesel buses. I think, they changed it from 2025 to 2026, just recently. So we are doing another replacement for that.
It is a diesel bus.
It is diesel bus.
That's 2550, 541.
It's, sorry. Yes, it's 2550 and then additional equipment, 541, yes.
We budget to replace 1 to 2 buses a year, through transportation as buses age out and aren't as efficient. So that's something we've done, for many years.
Yes.
I'm glad we own our own buses as opposed to leasing. It's a lot more stable.
Mhm. 24, technology services. So we increased the computer hardware slightly. Our technology department has been using ESSER funds to do laptop and Chromebook replacements.
Do we have a plan for those services since ESSER is ending?
So we did, we are purchasing extra with the funds this year. And there was a lot that got replaced right when we came back from COVID. And so we're planning on the ESSER money replacing those.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay. So now we're into our miscellaneous federal grants. So with the miscellaneous grants, they change year to year. They're usually small to medium grants that are temporary. And so you'll see a lot of changes in these miscellaneous grants. 233 is the federal and 250 is the non-federal. And so it just depends on what projects it has. It's always a specific purpose. So these grants vary widely.
Are there any new grants for this year, like first on the books?
The early literacy grant, which is,
The early literacy grant, which focuses on, preschool through grade 4 in order to, be able to, make sure our students are reading by 3rd grade. So that was an initiative, through the state, and, we're using that, some districts have used it to hire, more intervention teachers. We have intervention teachers, but we were able to add another half-time through that grant, to be able to provide, reading intervention for our students.
Which functions fund was that?
oh, that's further down, further back in the book. That's function, fund, 263. So we'll get to that one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and on the next page, we have Title 2A. And there was just a small increase, but we're using it for the same purposes.
So Title 2A is our grants for staff development, for, our staff to continue to grow their craft. And, so we use those funds, for trainings for our staff, for, to be able to support our new teachers through mentor programs. And so that, like Tony said, that grant varies year for year, but it does have the requirements that it be for staff development and staff improvement.
That's pretty stable.
Yes.
Okay, on the next page 27 is the ESSER grant that's going away, September 30. Again, we're budgeting, computer hardware and software for this, as well as some special projects. But nothing that's, ongoing.
An
So-
example of how we've used the ESSER funds is to be able, we've had a couple curriculum adoptions while we've had these funds, while we normally plan out of our general fund for our curriculum adoption. We have had the last 3, which are the most expensive ones: language arts, math, and science. And it has been nice to use ESSER money for that. And like Tony said, it will go back in to the funding we've had before, but it's been nice to be able to save some funds in the general fund and be able to use that.
So page 28, there's an allocation for software and hardware at the high school. And on page 29, there's some allocations for alternative education, which is credit recovery programs. The projects are in function 2540 down at the bottom of the page. There's consumable supplies there. And on the next page,
Funny, before you go, can I take it back up to the previous page number?
Sure.
Whatever that is. Textbooks. Is this one of those categories, Susan, you might, where you're talking about, you're able to throw in an ESSER and save it the general?
Mhm.
Gotcha.
Yes.
That's a
Yeah.
big number. I just want to make sure.
Do you stagger that like you do like big CapExes for buses as well? Like I saw like a 250 outlay for it. Like you just say like, okay, this year is middle school year, it's gonna cost us 250
yeah, and it
K
depends
for the high
on,
school.
and it depends on what the adoption is for that year. Because it's
So the
planned out.
Oregon, that's a good question, Jason. The Oregon Department of Ed has us on a 7-year cycle
Okay.
for, so when we look at all of our content areas, like I said, English language arts, which is, for all levels, science, math, and then we have upcoming, we have health, music, so they'll also clump some together that are smaller adoptions. But At the beginning of the year, the district needs to, and I don't want to get us too off track, but I think this is pertinent in our Division 22 standards, which is where each district signs off that they're following that 7-year adoption cycle. For instance, we do language arts, and then in another 7 years, we need to update it. So that we know we're teaching our students with updated curriculum. So anytime a school district does not follow that cycle, then they need to have a plan for getting caught up on it. So, our district, for instance, if we have to do that, then we say, okay, we can afford to do this one content area. We're going to delay to next year for the other one. But all districts are held accountable to either following that 7-year cycle or having a plan to get back on track.
Okay, so it's meet or exceed or have a plan.
Yes.
And then for you, I would imagine then that like you laid that out at the different, whether it's primary, middle, or high school, right? To say like, we know over the next 7 years, this is where those big chunks are gonna hit.
Yes, we plan on that through that 7 years.
Right. Okay, okay.
And our staff are involved in that selection process.
Okay.
Okay, so on page 30, again, we're allocating some ESSERs to computer hardware and technology services. And then on page 31, you'll see where the major projects are budgeted and in the equipment and additional equipment there.
Yeah, so on page 31, on line 235, ESSER, you'll see under 24-25 proposed 1.2 million, that will need to be spent by September 30th. So we've planned as much as we can. One of the requirements is that we can't just say we're going to plan to use it. We have to be able to order anything and have it arrive and be able to complete that requisition process. So we've been, like I said, we've been working hard because we want to be able to access and spend all those funds, not have to send anything back.
Right.
Bruce gives millions.
Use it or lose it.
Yes, exactly.
It is.
Sort of user, right?
Absolutely.
Everything.
So on page 32, we have the technology grants. And that's primarily E-rate.
It's probably what? E-rate?
E-rate.
What is that?
E-rate is a grant that helps us buy technology for schools. We did a wireless project not too long ago. We're looking at cameras and some other things.
So 153,000 on this one will be spent on, is this the Chromebooks one or what was this?
The Chromebooks was ESSER.
Okay.
So this is, we're looking at camera upgrades, things of that nature. So major projects.
Like security cameras?
Yeah. And servers and things like that.
We do have some requirements over the next 3 years with cybersecurity that all school districts are required in order to maintain their insurance, to make sure that security measures are in place to make sure that our school district is not vulnerable to cyber attacks. So we've been working with our ESD to be able to provide all of those extra security measures within that timeframe. For an example of what we did last year was all of our staff needed to have training to be able to look at phishing or, suspicious emails and to be able to identify that. That was one area. And then, being able to make, our sign-ons, stronger to make sure we're not, I mean, the reality is unfortunately that there's more cyber attacks than ever. So we need to make sure, especially since we have a lot of confidential student information, to make sure all of that's secure. So our technology team, obviously needs funding to be able to meet all those requirements.
Okay, on the next page 33, you'll see the Medicaid MAC program, which funds our health services folks. And then we do set aside a reserve for next year for those. Okay, on the next page is Aspire. That is just about between $2,500 and $3,000 a year. On the next page 35 is our Title I fund.
On
And
the previous page,
Sure.
is that the salary for the Aspire position?
no, it's we do like consumable supplies or technology for the Aspire program, things like that. Yeah, she's not funded out of Aspire.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then on page 35 is our Title I fund. And it grew significantly. And so we were able to fund more salary in this. And of course, this is extremely stable.
And Title I is federal funding to support reading. Our elementary school is a school-wide Title I school, and so they look at various factors to be able to identify how much funds we get each year, and that is able to support several of our Title I teachers and assistants through that program. So that's really valuable.
So the student count has gone up and the funding per student has risen to this.
It's Title I is really based on how many students need support, the percentage of free and reduced lunch. So our families that are economically challenged and be able to support based on those services.
So based on these numbers growing, that's a segment that's.
Yes,
Okay.
it's a good thing to be able to get additional funding to be able to put things in place.
Yeah, yeah, good job.
On the tools there, do we not need any further this year? That's something we purchased last year and we just don't need to go right. Going down,
What number is that, Chris?
it's just like 340 to 470. Just all the support services outside of the actual salary stuff.
Got it.
So the travel, it went back into the general fund. And then software, I know that we went to and textbooks. We've gone to ESSER funds for those this year. So
And some
so
of
yeah,
the.
so it's just
Some of
just
the.
using other funds for.
Yeah, through Title I, we've been able to also use early learning grant funds for, and to be able, we already adopted a curriculum for them to use, and so we've been able to get some supplements out of that early learning grant.
I think budgeting this year is gonna just be a whole lot easier than next year with this ESSER going away. That's an incredibly helpful
Yeah.
lift.
Yes, it has been. Okay, the next page is our IDEA grant, which is students with special needs, and it also went up significantly, and we were able to fund one more position in that grant. On page 37 is our rural and low income schools and we budgeted 33,000 for that. The next is our Title IV grant. And this has gone down slightly. So we put the staff development elsewhere.
What's Title IV?
Susan, can you help me out with Title IV?
It's not very big.
Okay, Title IV is, improving programs for students. And so it's a little bit more flexible than some of the other Title programs.
Thank you. Okay, page 39, we get into the wild and wonderful world of miscellaneous grants. Again, they change from year to year. They're not, they're usually small to medium grants. They can be private, they can be state grants, anything that doesn't go into the realm of stable funding. And so you'll see, you'll see it varies widely year to year. What we can use it for, there are always specific purposes to use those grants, so.
That's where our CTE grant falls into.
Our CTE grant is Measure 98, and that's a separate grant.
We did get an extra CTE grant that is in 250.
In 250.
Yeah.
Where's that at? Where is this?
That's the stable funding section, right?
That is let's see.
So each grant you have to determine if it's stable or not and put them in the right spot.
Right, and-
So is the CTE part of the stable or is that part of the variable?
So the extra grant that we received, I believe it's 2 years. I don't know if it's gonna continue or not.
But the Measure 98.
But Measure 98 is definitely.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that was,
Yeah.
thank you.
The
Yeah.
extra one that we got though recently was in the miscellaneous grants.
Yeah, it's for a specific purpose. It's a 2-year expenditure period to revitalize our construction program.
What exactly can the ESSER be spent on?
Sandra, did you ask what can it be used for?
Yeah.
ESSER really focuses on, being able to concentrate on lost learning, mental health needs for students, and staffing is allowed. You can also add positions to there. One, as I shared, we really have tried to add more electives for our middle school so that our kids have more of a choice. We started those with ESSER and have moved them into SIA. So it is quite broad what you're able to use ESSER for, and it's been for curriculum, like I said, we've been able to use that. Really, the only thing that they really limit you on is any type of construction, which you're not able to use.
Wait, I didn't hear that clearly. What kind of
They limit construction, capital improvements.
Okay.
But you can use it for technology, and really any other resources. Like I said, the restriction is, they don't want, folks using it to do capital improvements. They want to use other resources for that.
Perfect, thank you.
So you want me to jump in here and give you a little break?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, some other changes, that you'll see, if I can point you to page 41, function 1410, which is summer school. We did not receive, our district did not receive a summer school grant for this summer, which was disappointing, but, there are still some summer school activities, that we plan. What you'll see here on function 1410, 130 is, a $29,000. That is for our kindergarten readiness, which is a separate grant. And it's under the elementary section there. Some other changes, that you'll see here. Once again, under miscellaneous grants, I'm now on page 42. We see a slight, increase in function 2240, a staff development. Costs are going up, and so we want to make sure we've been working on Marzano, our instructional framework, which we've talked, and we want to be able to continue that work. For time, I'm gonna, go through this a little bit quicker and just stop me if you have questions. I'm on page 43, miscellaneous grants, non-federal, we see some, pretty consistent, funding there. And on page 44, you'll see an increase in, so now we're on our student investment account, which once again is the funding through the corporate activity tax. We have put more licensed staff in there, taking them out of the ESSER and put that into that stable funding. The corporate activity tax continues to increase, so we do receive more funding for that than we did. If you remember the first year that started, we received about a fourth of what they had projected, but this is a stable fund that continues to go up. So once again, we're able to put several of our added staffing needs in there.
Is it 455 number? Is that something it's more than that, falling down? What's the total number on the SIS?
The SIO
It's
is
1.5 million.
right. And this is, when we plan out, we plan for the volume, we plan 2 years. That doesn't mean it's ending after 2 years, but that's the way, we send in 2-year plan. This is, of course, the first year of that.
When do we know that number?
We usually know by the middle of the year, what they're gonna give us, and then we have 4 reporting periods that we need to, show how we're keeping up on our spending. Okay, I'm gonna take us now to page 48 with, the measure 98, which we talked about. We fund, our CTE, we fund 2 of our CTE positions, licensed salaries out of that, and then our other programs to support our students. There are some additional staffing positions that come out of Measure 98, our college and career readiness coordinator here at the high school, and then we're able to fund some a counseling position out of them too. Okay, so I'll now take us to page 50, Fund 253, Summer Enrichment and Learning Programs. As we said, we did not get a specific grant about that. We are still being able to provide credit recovery for our students who are credit deficient, as well as some transition programs for our students with special needs. On page 51, Fund 254, House Bill 3499, that's our English language learner to be able to support our students in that area. The focus on Kate manages this grant, And, it allows us to continue to, bring up, the success of our students whose first language is not English. Energy efficient schools is on page 52, Fund 260. Really minimal changes there. On page 53, Fund 261, we did receive, a Meyer grant several years back. We've been able to carry that money over, and this focuses on, equitable education. And on page 54, Fund 262, student body funds, you won't see much movement there. We continue to provide all those same services. As Tony said, on page 55, our newest grant is Fund 263, our early literacy success grant. The reason that you see this in this coming 24-25 years, because like I said, that was the first time we have had access to this grant. It's we've provided and for 2 years, but we do not see that going away. On page 56, on page 54, preschool promise. We have, Julie, are we in our 4th year of preschool? I think so. Preschool Promise is a federal grant, that has really allowed us to have our preschool program. And we work, with the ESD to be able to manage those. Once again, those are federal funds and those are stable. We have seen them, fluctuate a little bit, but they continue to rise. And then on page 57 and, 58 are a couple scholarships. We usually run all our scholarships through one program, but these are a few that are managed through the district office. On page 59, Fund 299, we have our federal service, our food service program. We do provide breakfast and lunch free to all of our students. And that is through some Provision 2 grant funding. So you'll see there that we do supplement through that. It is a couple years ago, we moved away from using Chartwells to outsource our food to having our own program, and that's been a welcome change.
I just want to point out the staffing on that's 5.5 people were taken. They feed all that many people. It's incredible.
And a lot of them are part-time, so
Wow.
they're really efficient with that.
Yeah.
Okay, Tony, I'm gonna turn it back over to you for debt services fund. I think we're on the home stretch, but.
Okay, so Fund 300 is our debt service, and I do have amortization schedules in the back for you to look at your leisure. So the Fund 300 debt service is for our 2017 and 2020 bonds. So that's redemption of principal and interest. And then our Fund 302 is our PERS UAL bonds that we took out several years ago. 62 is our full faith credit obligation loan. And that is funded through our general fund, but because it's a long-term debt, we have to keep it separate into a 300 fund. So page 63 is our capital improvement fund 400. This improvement fund is not tied to the GO fund that we had several years ago for this building.
Is this the,
This-
this is for the field and such, is that? what that
Yes,
is?
this is for the softball field and other projects.
Okay.
So we should have most of that paid for by June 30, but there is going to be some after June 30, so that's why that's budgeted there. And then on page 64, we do have a little bit of money left over from the LGAP Go Bond. And so that is in Fund 410.
Was the 4120 plan for this year?
I'm sorry,
4120, the 981, is that planned, or is that? Like, did you know that was coming, or was was it expected that the 2.4 from last year was gonna cover it? 2.4 million for last year.
Yeah, it is the delay in the construction of the fields.
right.
Okay,
So I met with Brian Hardebeck the other day, and that's the estimate of what's going to carry over.
what's left?
After
Yes.
June 30.
So we budgeted for last year and said it'll be 2.4 for the whole project, but then there's an additional growth or costs of 9 for this year.
Well, it's been between 6 and 7 million for the softball field.
Okay,
And so we've been budgeting that, and
They were expecting it to start in earnest in September, I think, and it
Right.
just got pushed back to like now. So,
Okay.
right.
so it just delayed it. The total cost will stay about the same,
I
just.
think what
Right.
Jason's asking is this 2.5, where did the other 4 go? And is the 981 part of that?
No,
It is not additional funds. It's,
just tiny.
this has been a multi-year project, so, the 981 is left over to finish, from, through March of
Mhm.
next year to be able to finish out that project.
So we'll spend most of the money between now and July, and from July to whenever, this is what they expect. But the same question I had when I saw that it's just a big miss, why did we miss so far? And the answer is because we were not able to start construction. And we're not, that's the answer.
okay,
Yeah,
Mhm.
So we've carried it over.
Yep.
Mhm.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, and on page 65, we have our capital maintenance reserve. And so we'll have another transfer into that this year.
is there we got a 10% reserve for general fund. What's an appropriate reserve for real estate assets?
So
Is there one, or do we have a target, or is it just whatever?
it's we have been putting $75,000 into the capital reserve for building maintenance over the years.
So this
And
would
that's-
cover like roofs. I just think that seems really low to me. Do you know the approximate value of the real estate that's part of the district?
I can get that.
In the
for you.
audit. So I'd
It's
say-
in the audit,
Well, it's gonna be 100 and some odd million,
yeah.
right?
it's
So,
Way more than that, yeah.
yeah,
It's-
so with a $1 million, that seems really low.
Really low.
Yeah, really, just,
Well, it is a new building, and
Yeah,
so there's
that's
not a
true.
whole lot that's gone wrong so far.
Right, and we have a couple projects, a couple summer projects that we definitely want to do, to be able to, increase, security, specifically at, Pacific Ridge. We have, 8 classrooms that need, doors that need to secure them, and to make sure that they're ADA. That was something, that was not completed in the remodel. And then, we also, have some projects around, to be able to continue, like I said, our security. And, another example is we have a 96-hour generator up at the secondary school, but our generator at Pacific Ridge is only a couple hours. So we want to be able to do those kinds
so
of.
would this be the fund I would go to if I had an unexpected expense that would be significant?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I'm saying. It's just 1% seems really low. I think that at the college it was 4%, but whatever.
Okay, and the next page is just a summary of by major objects of the general fund. Okay, and on page 68, starts our revenue section. So I do see a little bit of an increase, but
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Talk
Sorry.
about bearing the lead. 20 million, 23, 27 million in 24. So 30% increase. And it's all in roughly most of it's in salaries.
Mhm. Yeah,
So I guess it would be great to unpack that specifically. And I know that it's like, you know, each line item has it, it's 10%, it's this or whatever, but like trying to understand how we had a 30% increase that we were able to cover. Like like what source enabled that? Like what provided our ability to spend an additional $7 million? Like, what was that source for those expenditures?
so, part of it is our ending fund balance, that we've had, because we've had COVID money, cover most of our expenses that have come up, but you know,
And you say you're just
the-
really good at what you do,
the
but
ending fund balance was 6.5 million going into next year, but that's what I've projected, so,
Jason, you're talking about the difference between 2023 salary and 2024 salary, sorry? Or
yeah,
sorry,
just bottom line general fund,
Okay,
like
7 million.
7 million.
between 2020,
Where did it come from?
23.
Like that would be that would be it. Like what puts came in? Was it the additional taxes, that main source of the property tax piece has gone up? Like that, was it an absence of outlays in other places? Like, I'm just trying to understand how we had a 30% change.
so we had, no class, you know, we didn't have, kids in the building over COVID, but we still had, money, that came in from the federal government and ESSER and other funds. And we were able to use that and, grow our ending fund balance.
And Jason, we can break that down for our next meeting.
Yeah, I can do financials.
But to answer your question, most of it is this COVID money and it needs to be spent. So
Yeah.
again, it's gonna be easy to spend money this year. Next year is gonna be much, much more difficult because I don't think it's gonna be, this budget will be lower next year,
Well, I
even
think-
with increases.
I think also
It will
that
be.
Jason's looking at, you got, you know, from 21 to 24 or 25, I mean, it's a $10 million increase, right? That's a lot in a short amount of.
Oh, yeah, I just think.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And so
What
just kind
line
of,
number is that you're referring to?
It's
So
page
page-
67 with the graph.
The totals.
Yeah, sorry, I guess that was last year with the 7. So this year it's another.
Susan, would it be fair to say over the last 2 or 3 years, you've received over 10 million in temporary COVID relief money?
Mhm.
And,
So that's the answer. It's gonna go away and then we're gonna have to get ourselves back in this budget. But we've spent the money on things hopefully over,
Or salaries are recurring costs though, too.
right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But the salaries. I mean, that went up.
More in line.
3
yeah.
million, not
Right.
10 million.
Right. Yeah, I guess like I stopped 1 too short, but, okay, like, got it. So it's a 12% increase year on year between last year and this year.
Mhm.
Understanding like that walk forward, if it was because we've had those increasing, had those funds, we put those funds away, we're able now to outlay those funds. But with salaries as a recurring cost moving forward,
Mhm.
do we have the sources, right, over the next 5 years to maintain all of that? Obviously, it's true,
Mhm.
but I just want to kind of understand that a little bit better.
Well, we won't have a 7% increase,
Of course not.
year to year to year.
Right.
But we were able to offer that because of our ending fund.
Oh, yeah, I guess
But I see your point. I do.
I'm not worried about like the salaries piece or associated payroll, like blah, 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 blah. Like my part of it, what I'm trying to really understand is is that bottom line of this is the cost. These are what we're going to be expending over the next few years, and this is why. And this is, we are confident in our sources of supply coming from whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
That will be able to offset that growth, that recurring growth.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to see my forecasting for the next few years.
I love forecasting.
I love forecasting too.
That would be.
I have several
that would-
spreadsheets.
That'd be great.
Love a good financial model. I got it. I also, so the planned reserve dropping from 2.75 to 2.5, love that for us as well. So I just wanted
I thought you'd like.
I wanted to call that. Only another 500, only another million to go, right there.
Yeah. Like you said it enough times.
And the planned reserve, I mean, what is that? Is that for the general fund reserve?
Yeah, so basically most districts at the end of the year have no ending fund balance or very little. And they have to go out for what's called a TANS loan. And that basically covers your expenses from summer to November, when we get most of our funding from our taxes, from property taxes. So we get a big influx in November and but hardly anything from the start of the school year until then. So but we haven't needed a TANS loan for several years now.
Yeah, and my guess is, again, I think you make a very good point, Jason, and I would guess, I'm just ballpark, I have no idea. But I think the budget will be less than to the 24, next year's budget will be in the range of 26, 27. Probably, I don't know, I'm just ballparking, because we're spending all of this money that needs to be spent. And we want to get it out, and then I think who knows, I don't know what the exact number is, when.
We're gonna calm
It'll
down.
be lower, it'll be lower than this one. we're
It's gonna be
approving.
lower.
But we can provide the forecasting.
Yeah.
Okay. Tony,
go ahead.
can you clump some of these others together?
Sure, I can tell you that that miscellaneous, the grant funding is mostly a one line per page, because either it comes from the state or it comes from federal sources. And because we balance our budget, it's exactly the same as our expenses in those funds, so we can almost skip over most of them.
The resource report.
Yeah, the resource reports, because if you have, if something catches your eye, I think,
Hey, Jason, I go to 71, you'll have to page 71, that's what's interesting, how much money we've been blowing through this money we have to share. So just this is this one-time emergency grant money, these are the big numbers, the 3,047,000 last year. We're planning another 1.2 million this year.
mhm.
So this is all kind of extra money that we got, but it's got to be spent or we'll lose it. And so that's why these budgets been pretty fat. But I think it'll come into line, because we're not gonna be spending this money, it won't show up.
Mhm.
So Tony, can you, we've got a couple charts at the end there about, our bonds and our full faith credit obligations
Right,
and our bond pension.
so these are just amortization schedules to show you what our debt service is gonna look like in the coming years. There are different bonds, different amortization schedules.
Or
Oh, 157, way back. So,
157? I don't know about that. I don't either. Oh, whoa, we skipped a whole bunch of numbers.
yeah,
We went from 97 to 157.
so the first few are 2017 A, that won't end until 2047. The full faith credit obligation fund ends in 2040.
Just for.
Sure.
So this is the school, number one, page 157 is the school building. Is that the bond? It's funds, finance,
So, 157, 158, and 159
for all three this book.
are basically this building. So our Oregon Department of Energy loan, which we've had for several years now, we started in 2012, went for a remodel of what was the Seaside Heights back then. And we do get a portion of our electricity bill back from Pacificor, and that pays for the energy loan. And then we've got the OSBA pension bond, that's almost over. It's got a couple years left. And then there's the general obligation bond for 2020 that is also this.
And this one started in 2005. So what that means,
I'm sorry?
which pension, OSBA pension bond started in 2005, is that what that means?
Yes.
Yes, it started in 2000. Yep.
And so the last one here is the Geo bond series 2020. Is that this field, softball field loan?
No, that's part of this building. So we had several bonds that we sold.
Let's see. Okay, and what is this, the last one, number 2020? Or is that?
Yeah, so Kevin, we
series-
sold like the majority of the bonds early to spend that money, and then we sold some late to cover cost.
Yeah,
So they're like two
I'm just
separate.
putting names to each page.
Absolutely.
What is this last one?
Yeah.
What is this? What was this
We
for?
sold a big chunk.
So the series 2020 was part of this building.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, gotcha. All right, thank you.
Okay.
No problem.
Like, you're waiting to sell more. That's right, yeah.
No. So we know this is, thank you, we know this is a lot of information we've thrown at you. You'll get an email from me, watch for an email from me tomorrow morning. On that email, will be the PowerPoint presentation we shared. There will also be a link, to, a Google Forms. And on that Google form, you'll be able to put any questions in that you have. You can put more than one in. So between this next 30 days, as you go through here, like we did last year, we want to be able to come back to our main meeting with all the questions that we've received and the answers in one document. We'll also reach out to folks who aren't here, staff, community members, to be able to put in those questions, and then we'll come back to the main meeting with them. So, these binders are yours to keep and dig in, and as questions come up, please put them in that form.
Thank you very much, Ms. Penrod and Ms. Van Schul for that report. Are there any other questions that come before the committee? Any public comment? I have to read that whole thing. All right, that's good. That was a joke. I knew I did. I tried to get around it. A Google form has been created for questions to be submitted after you have time to review the budget further. It will be made available on our district website. As we open the discussion to comments from the public, please step forward and state your full name or type your question into the chat. Be sure to include your full name. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes and cannot give up their time to another speaker. There will be up to 30 minutes of public comment allotted. If additional time for comment is needed, it may be granted at the committee's discretion. All answers to all questions will be distributed in a document at the May budget meeting.
Do we have anybody in person? Anybody online with questions?
Not yet.
All right, well, if there are,
Once again, I'll send it out to folks who, people who aren't here to see if they have any questions.
okay, great, thank you very much. All right, if there's nothing more to come before the budget committee, we will be meeting again on Tuesday, May 21st, 2024 at 6 p.m. And the budget committee is now adjourned.
Yes.